Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you're located. This is Cindy from CPSE, and I'd like to welcome you to today's sponsored webinar by FirstWatch Fire Operations Analytics and Accreditation Module. It is a pleasure to introduce Chris Carlson, FirstWatch Product Manager. Chris is a former paramedic, firefighter, and fire chief. In addition to his field experience, Chris has held a variety of leadership roles, including serving as a board member for the League of California Cities and California Fire Chiefs Association, Chief Operations Officer at TransCare, and Vice President of Xerox Corporation. Chris holds both an MBA and a bachelor's degree from the University of Redlands and an Executive Fire Officer certification from the National Fire Academy. Joining Chris on today's webinar will be Daniel Brown, FirstWatch Product Solutions Owner, and Terry Fitch, FirstWatch Director of Sales. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type into the chat window in the GoToWebinar panel on your screen. This webinar is being recorded, and you will receive an email with a link to the recording so you can share it with others either later today or tomorrow. At the end of the webinar, please contact FirstWatch directly for additional information, and be sure to visit their booth at the 2023 Excellence Conference, February 28th through March 3rd at the Caribe Royale Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. Thank you all so much for attending, and now Chris will begin the webinar.
Well, good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As Cindy said, I'm Chris Carlson. I'm the product manager for a variety of things at FirstWatch, all things fire, and in our fire vertical as well. I think this will probably take about 30 to 40 minutes, and of course, then members of our team will be happy to be available to answer any questions or do any clarifications that we can do. Again, as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. As Cindy said, you will be receiving an email later on. If you have a problem with that, please sign off right now and let us know, and the recording will be available later on as we move forward. As Cindy also said, joining me today are members of our team. We've got Daniel Brown, who's our technical solution owner, does all the back end work, as well as doing a lot of the creative things for us here at FirstWatch. And I'll bring this up real quick. Also, Jordan Hanovan is the newest member of our team. Both Daniel and Jordan have fire experience in the past. Daniel also has some communications experience. And Terry is our Director of Sales, supervising all of our regional managers around across the country. So we're going to talk a little bit now for the next 30 or 40 minutes on the actual product that we have called Foam. Foam started as a fire operations and accreditation module. And it happened because a lot of our customers came to us and said, you guys are really good at automating those things that should be automated and still allowing a professional human being to look at things that require skills, knowledge, perspectives, experience to make decisions on, because nothing just ever falls perfectly into the algorithms and automation that we have. So there's got to be a way that you can you can help us do this with our accreditation. And clearly, we're not in a position to do all of your accreditation stuff, right? I mean, there's things about governance and other things. You have obviously have to make some decisions about consequence, community impact, and those kinds of things. But what we did find is we were able to do a lot of the operational performance and automate that and provide not only clean data for you to work with, but also have you the opportunity to review the data that's included within that data set and provide manual overrides or exclusions for things that maybe fall through the automation. So it's a very unique tool we have. We call it the exclusion tool. We'll spend a few minutes talking about that as well as we move forward. So basically, Foam itself is, as I said, based on the operational performance requirements or metrics that CFAI/CPSE have come up with. It'll all be driven basically from the ACR and the elements of the ACR annual compliance report. We'll continue to revisit here over the next few minutes as we talk about this. But on top of that, then we've also created a suite of operational reports. And the reason that we did that is there's twofold, really. If you look at the mission of CFAI, one of the things that is very important to them is that the entire accreditation process be about professionalism and continuous improvement. So it shouldn't be just a document that gets stuck on your shelf and you pull off every 4.5 years to get caught up with your 5-year reaccreditation. It should be part of an ongoing continual improvement. And I think everybody on this call fully realizes that. So we've included a couple of really cool tools, most of which we learned from our clinical experience in terms of improving and enhancing clinical protocol compliance to improving and enhancing fire service operational performance. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And as I was saying, there's probably about 10 or 11 reports that we have that we offer that not only assist in accreditation, but also assist in the day-to-day management of your operation, as well as defining changes in your system, areas for improvement in your system, and those things that can be managed to provide enhancements in your service. So having said that, the landing page that we have for the foam module, and it is important, I'm sure Terry can talk about this a little bit later on, but foam is just one component of a robust network of management information tools that FirstWatch produces. We have things like online compliance utility for measuring response time compliance for contracted EMS services. We've got FirstPass, which is our protocol. Originally was a protocol compliance tool, now is a clinical procedure enhancement tool, quality improvement tool as well. So we borrowed a lot from the lessons that we learned in that. And we're starting now to become more geocentric. So those of you that are on the call that maybe have been with us for a while can see that this is perhaps a little bit different. So we are moving to, as I said, this more geospatial, geocentric view of the world. And this is the landing page that demonstrates several things before I get into the more aggressive reporting that we talk about. So one of the other aspects of FirstWatch that's important to know is we provide a high degree of customization. So within the foam framework, we obviously try to maintain the structure around the accreditation module, but individual changes or individual unique applications that your organization have are all customized. So for example, on this map in front of you, one of the things that we will talk to you about is, so what geospatial things do you want to look at? So we can look at planning zones, obviously, first and foremost, easiest example. But if you want councilmatic districts, if you have automatic aid areas, if you have annexation areas, if you have new development areas, we can create those geospatial areas for you and then be able to demonstrate the impact that their presence or changes within them have on the operations of your fire department. So again, this is just kind of very high level when you open up. See, again, based on whatever geospatial components are important to you. So these happen to be planning zones that this agency has. If we do a selection of one of these zones, you can see it then will change the overall components of the reporting to that specific zone. So selecting 7 changes total number of incidents, total number of responses, the average per day, based on a totally selectable date range, right? So as long as we have your data, we can go back as far as you need or want to collect that data and provide for that particular date range. You can also see here that you can report out instantly on a variety of different filter applications. In this case, it's call type. If you just want to know how we did an EMS in zone 7, you can do that literally with a click of a button. It'll show you. And if you want to see how that changes over time, you can use the slider to show it over time. You can do it by shift. You can do it by battalion. And you can do it for a variety of the elements in here. So this is just total incident count, but we've set up quick filters for the various operational elements of the ACR, alarm handling, total response, travel, and turnout time, so you can then get a quick graphical representation of what's going on, again, by zone or by station or by shift, or whatever it is that's important to you as you move forward. So a quick summary of everything that's going on. within your department is found up here. So you'll notice here the kind of the big eight as we call them, that is driven by the CFAI total number of incidents, total number of calls where an actual ERF, full ERF arrived on scene, alarm handling, turnout times, travel, total response, ERS travel time, and ERF concentration and total response. So those are all just available as at a landing screen, just quick and dirty up in front of your face and what's going on. You can also see that this would also be very good, not only for accreditation purposes, but if you're looking for transparency, public information, if you have a public transparency vehicle for communicating your performance to your community and or your policymakers, you clearly have the ability to do this, and we can load this up with a pub token or some other mechanism so that it would be publicly available, or a limited view could be publicly available if that's something that you need or you want. So down here we have the links to our standard reports. I'm going to go back up here and kind of show you what some of those standard reports look like, just based on the automated capabilities that we have. And as I said before, everything is really driven by the ACR, right? So I'm sure the majority of people on this call recognize the format of the ACR. And of course, as CFAI/CPSE revises these on an annual basis, we'll obviously change those formatting for you. It would all be included in the license fee that we charge in the annual support and maintenance. So we change these formats as is necessary. As of about a year and a half ago, every combination of risk category and risk classification has its own page. So as you can see through here, this particular agency has 16 different combinations of risk classification and risk category. As you move through, you can see fire high, EMS high, fire moderate, et cetera, et cetera. And then what we've done down here is created a hyperlink for the specific reports and incidents, responses that are related to this particular column, right? So in 2021, we had a total ERF number of total ERF dispatches would be 20. Total that actually arrived on the scene would be 0. So none of the moderate fire elements, categories, and classifications had an arrival in 2021. But if you wanted to see what these 20 calls were that we were tracking for an ERF, you can pull this up. This gives you an event list. For those of you that are familiar with FirstWatch, this looks like a pretty standard event list as we output a lot of information. Any of these categories, alarm handling, again, they're all the CFAI operational categories, can be sorted by up or down. So if you just wanted to see, like, what's my biggest turnout time, or largest or smallest, I can select and then just work down and say, oh, this is acceptable, not acceptable, whatever. And if you want to know, like, well, what happened on this call, you have a hyperlink that brings up a data download of the data source that we're using to collect that data. So it could be CAD, could be RMS, could be EPCR in some cases, whatever the case may be. It allows you to drill. So think about what we've done. We've gone from a very high level year-end report to ability within the same platform without having to log out, log in, do anything different, and understanding of what was going on in those particular calls to help you identify anomalies, outliers, or just beginning an investigation to figure out what happened. Please note that all this information here is de-identified. Obviously, you as the client would be able to get fully identified data, which would include all of the notes, all of the unique identifiers, including PHI. That is fully determinable by you, and we can provide a variety of levels of authority within the program so that people only see what they're supposed to see. And we work with some of the largest hospital systems in the country, so we kind of got the security thing, or we spent a lot of sweat equity working on the security thing. Right? All of the elements of security and access, and have that pretty well dialed in, but we can spend a whole lot of time talking about that if that is important to you and your organization. So that's the ACR. You're all familiar with that particular aspect of reporting. The other list of standard reports that we have is we have a UHU report, or unit hour utilization report, that's based purely on task time. I'll just hopefully show this to you real quick. And again, all of these reports have a robust filtering capability that are very customizable by you, right? So if you, for example, you have districts, right, above battalions, we could include districts, or you can include councilmatic districts, or however it is that's important to you. All of our reports have the ability to be filtered by a variety of data elements. And one thing that I didn't talk about that I should have on the ACR is that while it's required that you have 5 years of historical data today, we also have the ability for you to look at it, by month or by year, or however you wanted to put that data together that make it meaningful to you and your community. So again, this robust filtering capability allows you to do a lot of defined filtering of what's going on. In this particular case, we even included non-emergent, even though you probably wouldn't be using a lot of non-emergent in your accreditation. But if you wanted to get an overall view of what's going on in your agency, you can see we're fully capable of adding that. The stations become sortable by whatever battalion is selected, or if you only have a single battalion, it would obviously go to all of the stations that are available. Minimum number of calls allows you to adjust the y-axis. So in those cases where you have like a Medic 1 downtown that's running 2,000 calls a month, and an airport that's running 2 calls a quarter, you don't have this really weird skewed y-axis that makes the majority of data kind of unreadable because you have this one standout. So the UHU report basically just tells you the percentage of a shift, whether it be 8 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, a unit is committed to emergency responses, or again, whatever risk you are looking at or want to assign it to. So in this particular case, their ILS unit, which is really the community paramedicine unit, is on dispatch calls 14.4% of the time. You can see the engines, trucks, whatever special units you have, we're able to track that for you, and then conditionally format it based on whatever percentages you want. So in this particular case, less than 25% will give you green, 26 to 30% will give you yellow, and once a unit goes above 31% of its time, equal to or above 31% of its time, it'll show red, and you'll have an easy graphical display of what's going on. Transport report is just a visual representation of if your agency transports the number of transports that are conducted by a particular station. But even more importantly than that, I think, is several of our customers came to us and said, gee, we're losing a lot of resources or time on our suppression resources or units accompanying ambulances to the hospital, and or driving ambulance to the hospital in high criticality cases. So can we track that? Can we see how that's going over time? And so we said, yeah. So we've got this category of transport assists, and this is just a very basic representation that for this time period, last month, this agency had 1,406 total responses for engine 1, or station 1, I'm sorry. It generated 378 transports, and of those 378, 11 took a suppression resource, either as a driver or a medic, to assist with the transport. Again, part of the filtering capability, you can be as specific or non-specific as you want, and this is what we will do in working with you and your team to identify, what it is exactly you want included within your reportable events. Time analysis graph is just a visual representation of essentially of the ACR that allows you to display all of the components of the ACR in a way that's highly visual. And I'm going to show you here in a minute how we're moving some of these things over to a more visual business intelligence software that will help you display the same reports in a little bit different manner. But I wanted to share this with you as kind of the baseline of where we're going. So I'm going to take out bomb, public assist, and hazmat, and view the report, and it will generate a quick graph, again, based on whatever time frame I want, whatever shift I want, of what's going on. So it'll provide it by station, by the stations that are selected up here in our categories, and then also stations of your organization or agency. And we can include automatic aid stations in here as long as they're included within the same database, right? So if we're taking CAD data, or it has to be obviously within we have to have access to the data regardless of where it's coming from, is what I'm trying to say. Turnout time analysis is one of our favorite reports for all of our fire customers and colleagues. It is basically a report of, how are we doing in terms of turnouts? You have a lot of flexibility in this if you choose to go this route. So many agencies have different turnout time standards for night and day, for example. Some agencies have different turnout standards for, fire suppression structure versus fire suppression brush versus EMS high criticality versus whatever. So we can include all of those or any of those in this type of report. In this particular example, you can see we're also capturing this agency's AVL data. So we're also being able to report the delta between the, well, I'll call it the manual input. So whether you're using, whatever devices you're using to capture the data, button push, et cetera, and the ability to then compare that to when the AVL actually captures the vehicle rolling. So you can see if there's some very big discrepancies there or little discrepancies that's reported in this delta here. And then these are conditionally formatted to be, are you within or without the standard that, again, as an agency you set. We don't just randomly apply, NFPA or anybody else's stats to it. You tell us what you promise your community or what your community is looking for, what's in your SOX or strategic plan, and we will include that, and then we'll continue to update that as you move forward. So we have this, obviously, you can start at whatever level of granularity you want. You can start at station, you can start at battalion, and then this drills down into the individual units within each of those stations. So you can kind of get a quick overview of what's going on. Notice again, we have these URL or these hyperlinks. So you have the ability to do what I had done earlier, just select this and it'll bring up that event listing. And then you can do a further drill down if you're trying to figure out, oh, well, why did they have a 4-minute, 90th percentile turnout time? Well, you can get in, start looking at the report, see what's going on, see if you have a theme that's involving in that. And of course, FirstWatch has a lot of tools that help you in terms of real-time notification, developing the data of the reasons behind things, and providing information to supervisors that this particular trend is occurring, or this outlier event is occurring in station 54 out in wherever, and allows them as an agency to deal with it on a very time-sensitive manner. I'm just going to pull up aggregated district maps real quickly. Just want to tell you here, we are an Esri business partner. So if you have Esri maps, Esri Community Almanac, or any of those other things, we can apply those to anything within the report. We're also looking at several different geospatial mapping reporting areas. But this is just an example of, again, the robust filtering capability that you're able to provide here. So we've got, whatever type of call. Again, you have battalions, service areas, fire districts, planning zones, whatever it is that you're trying to geospatially represent or measure against, we're able to provide for you, and we're able to then sort out by risk. So this is just a quick and dirty example of this particular agency. Conditional formatting based on the performance for response time. And of course, you could change that up to whatever element that you're looking for. And I'm going to come back to maps here in just a second. This is our incident count and response performance report that we affectionately refer to as the eye creeper. This is just a really good end of month, end of year, end of time period report that provides a summary of the total number of incidents that are within the filtering capability that we described up here. So again, you can do it by an individual station, shift, whatever's important to you. We have the ability for you as the administrator to change the goals, so that impacts the conditional formatting for these red and green dots. So if you are in an improvement effort, as you show positive improvement or feedback, you can provide that feedback instantly by just changing the goal on here and then changing the conditional formatting to show what they're doing. Total number of incidents is the top part of this. So this shows by the breakout of the hazard classification that's identified in the SOC. So this particular agency last month had 7,771 incidents. Out of that, the resulted 2,282 transports. And then if you go down to this bottom part, this then takes that same information and separates it into individual response data. So here's the individual units. Here's the big 8, if you will, or the big 6, depending upon how you want to look at it, that is within the ACR and the CFAI framework. And it just gives you a quick and dirty look about like what is going on. Are we meeting what we promised we would meet? Are we meeting what the council expects us or the board expects us to meet, or what's going on? And it provides a really cool and quick way to look to see where are my outliers, you know, what's going on, what's the biggest problem. And again, we have this hyperlink ability where you can go in and actually look at the reports just sitting at your desk without having to go and, you know, pull paper or go to a different program or log out or log in or do any of those things. At the bottom, there's just a quick summary. How did we do at the 90th percentile? And I think I neglected to mention, but everything in here is basically done at the 90th percentile. All of the reporting out is defaulted to 90th percentile. So we've got absolutely no problem with that, obviously. And then an overall summary of what's going on. So in this, again, last month, they ran 9,447 responses within those 7,771 incidents as you move forward. All right, so also included is a quick and dirty demand chart, hour of day, day of week. We also report this out not only by total count for the period, so this is for last month, by incidents and responses, but we also then provide an average. So if you want to use this as a planning tool to say, so on average, what is it that I'm going to expect for a given hour of the day, day of the week, whether this be, you know, for surge staffing or, you know, brownouts or whatever it is that you're having to deal with. You have a quick and easy display of what's going on in terms of the temporal demand within your particular system. Station reliability is a report that will identify for you to what extent do units from a given zone actually respond into the zone that you expect them to go into. So I didn't explain that very well using the English language, but as I pull this up here, you'll kind of see what I mean. So basically, if we have a cadre of apparatus at Station 1, to what extent were those units first in to Station 1's response or first due area? And see, in this case, it was 88.83%. If you have a particular area that you're having problems with in terms of mutual aid, or you just want to monitor it for contract purposes, we have the ability to add those areas for you as well that are reported over here. And if you want a little more granular view of the world, you can do the same report, but do this by responses, and this breaks it down by individual unit. So as you can imagine, you know, medic units and trucks have a wider distribution area, so it kind of gives you a clear picture of what's going on with that. You know, engines are, you know, typically within their own area, so you see pretty high performance. Medic Engine 1, 98% of their calls, they were first into Station 1. So we have the ability to report that out for you. And also, again, individual units into surrounding areas or areas that you want to study for whatever purpose, new development, annexation, contract, whatever the case may be. One of the things that I want to talk to you about, I mentioned real early, is one of the big value addeds that we run into in this is dealing with the issue of exclusion. So one of the challenges that CFAI has been dealing with for the last several years has been trying to get some kind of uniform view and understanding of what is an appropriate exclusion policy and what calls should be included and excluded. That can be a very time-consuming process. Some of our customers have gone through this, said that by using this tool, they've saved, you know, anywhere from a day to 3 days in trying to sort through their data on exclusion, what's there and what's not. So what we've done is created what we call the exclusion tool. This creates a listing of all of the incidents that are within the foam data framework. These columns are all sortable as well. So you can give, so for example, turnout time, right? I love to pick on turnout time. I want to know what my problems are. I go, ooh, 16-minute and 59-second. That's a problem. 10-minute, 37 seconds. So what happened on that particular call? You have the ability to go right over here again without logging out, pull up the data related to that particular incident, whether it be CAD data or RMS data. And it'll bring you this, this drill down information of everything related to that particular call. Again, you'd be identified, so it would capture all of the dispatch notes as well as all the times and all the PHI as you move through that. You can provide us with a list of exclusion reasons, right? So these should be consistent with your adopted exclusion policy for those of you that are into accreditation. We'll be happy to load these up for you. If you get this call and say, oh, well, it was out of district, right? So really it turned out to be out of jurisdiction. Click that, verify it, and it changes it to this beautiful salmon color and removes that particular data and all the data associated with from the calculations for the 90th percentile and for the performance. If later on you review it or your peer review committee shows up and goes, yeah, no, that's got to be included, you can change it back. It then updates it and then includes that data back in the universe of data that is included within the calculations. But wait, there's more. So what we also then provided is what we call an excluded incidents report. So when your peer review committee shows up, or the newspaper, or whoever it is that is asking you questions about what calls are excluded out of your data analysis, you can again pick a time period. I'm just taking previous year because I know there's data in there. This then brings up a report that shows you all of the data that's been excluded, all of the incidents and responses that have been excluded from your particular data. And then you have the ability, for example, with your peer review committee to go up here and say, well, I don't think, like, wait, what's going on with that? A single click allows you to access, again, that drill down. You and the peer review committee can go just look at that particular report, again, whether it could be CAD or RMS or EPCR, whatever the case may be. And in one step, then you can review that without having to, get a list, go pull it up, run copies of it up, or, have your Zoll or ESO or whatever, standing by on a different monitor. You just have the ability now to do it all in one-stop shop, so to speak, if you will metaphorically forgive me in using that. These same types of reports are available in this new visual analytic tool that I've been talking about. So this is as I indicated before, this is going to be the landing page. This is the landing page. We have a variety of highly customizable tabs that show the reports that I just went through with you under the standard moniker, if you will. So these are all interactive. Again, you have the ability to quickly just click on one, see how the map changes as you particularly do that. Have the ability to include a automated, quick, high-level overview of the dimensions that you think are important, like most increase, most decrease, top two, bottom two, whatever, those types of things. We're able to provide that for you as well. We've also spent more than a little bit of time creating a automated 3-axis risk model utilizing the Heron's formula. Some of you, many of you will probably recognize this. So what we have the ability, because we have your data, we can go back and establish for you what the probability of an incident is. We have a whole bunch of data on both NFIRS incidents and structure property types. So we have the ability to understand what the impact would be on the department as it relates to the units that are committed to each of those. And then that leaves for you the consequence, community consequence, right? So only you can determine, in a somewhat subjective manner, right, what the importance are of, various risks within your community. Put all those numbers together and it spits out a list of numbers based either on the incident type or property type, and then becomes part of a policy making decision on your end is where you want to actually draw those lines between low, moderate, high, severe, whatever the case may be. But the tool is available to you. Several of our customers use this just as a validation of their own thought processes. Other customers use this as a, oh, cool, thanks. Let's just plug these numbers in, see where the lines fall, and use this as our risk identification model. But I just want to let you know that's available out there We're currently including it within the foam framework. It may stay there, it may not, but it is currently available if you have an interest in doing that and working through with that. This is the iCreeper report, only in a visual analytic model here. So again, you can see same information. Tabular data just doesn't present as well here as it does in the more standard reports, but it does provide you with a very quick and in-hand ability to filter in a very powerful and quick way of doing things. So like built in here, you see we've got shift, we've got station, call types, unit types. We could do this again by planning zone, whatever it is that's important to you, we can customize that to make that work. Again, kind of in terms of public accountability and or transparency, so just a quick dashboard related to like what's going on, what kind of calls, what's our by hour of day, day of week, some of the quick things that we've put together for some of our customers. Same type of thing by night, by day, by incident type, the NFPA incident category. So you have the ability to get the top 10 and or drill down to whatever else is important for you. Same type of thing. We've got here the ability to provide an automated narrative for you. Again, quick public transparency. Station reliability report, just a visual view of that tabular report that I showed you a little bit later on. And again, if you want to sort this out by type of call or different time period, we have the ability to do that. These are color coded, obviously, with the highest being darker, and we're working on enhancing the palette here, but just quick, easy visual view into what's going on in terms of our ability to serve the design that we've come up with. Fractal performance is just essentially the time analysis graph with the tabular summary below it. Demand chart, again, highly visual. UHU, same kind of thing. Just some dashboard components up here showing what it is. Conditional formatting down here below. It's very quick, red is good, green is good, red is bad. So we can see this guy's getting up here in terms of UHU, still only at 9.7%, but still it's very easy to see who our busiest units are. And then the units performance scatter chart allows us to view who our busiest units are by type and the impact of their busyness on their turnout times and availability. So it's kind of a quick and dirty, different way to look at it. And you can see we can do it by turnout time and by travel time and total response time, which is actually pretty cool. It's just a different way of looking at the same kind of thing. I talked a little bit about process improvement. And so one of the other elements that's very important to CFAI and your organization is how are we doing over time, right? Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? What is going on? So again, borrowing from the lessons that we learned in our clinical performance improvement efforts, we constructed some temporal charts here, and you'll recognize these are the components, operational components of the ACR. The requirements for rural or urban are reflected in here, but if you just want to look at our overall system without respect to density, you have the ability to do that. You can display this in a variety of ways. So if you want to show it as a column chart, if you like columns, you can do that. If you want to show it as a bar chart, you can do that. Clearly, you can export these as any way you want, or you can obviously do a screen grab if that's what you need to do. But the other cool thing about this is we've included control limits, which is a statistical process control tool that allows you to understand what's the normal variation in your system. In other words, no system will always have the same data point across time, but every system and every process will have a boundary in which there's just common cause variation, sun coming up later, whatever the cause may be. That's what is described by the upper and lower limits that are shown here. Once it gets outside of this, then that becomes a special cause variation, which means it is manageable. I mean, you can have an intervention to look at it to figure out what's going on. But in any event, it's outside of what we would normally expect to have happen. And if it continues over time, these bars will actually shift. And I don't think I have enough variability in here to get a shift, because fire defense systems are, basically still pretty static. But if this was to, let's say you were doing an annexation, right? And, so they accept the annexation, but you don't get another, ambulance, or you don't get a station built where you think you need one. You can dramatically say, oh, look at this annexation occurred back here in September, and look at what's happened to my response time. It's all going up here. And even better than that, if you say it went up here, and then we put that surge unit in effect in December, and then, geez, look at what's going here. Here's the impact that it's had over time. It gives you a very good tool to identify and then be able to demonstrate the impact of the proposed solutions that you have for various elements within your system. So it's a very powerful tool. It's sometimes, it's one of those things like exit hardware, right? Panic hardware on the exit. It's like it's there all the time, and it's probably not even noticed until you actually need it. So this is the same kind of thing, right? Is that, probably 90% of your career, maybe it's not a problem, not something you need to look at. Everything will be pretty simple, but there will be that time where you kind of get hit with that black swan or that curveball. That's like, ooh, what happened here? And how did we deal with it? What was the actual impact of that within our system? So it's actually a very, very cool tool across time as we look at it. And it also serves to inculcate the whole value of accreditation throughout your organization, because it's not just a one-time thing. It's, every month, every day, we're looking at it, seeing what's going on. So having said that, Daniel or Jordan, have I forgotten anything terribly remarkable?
I do have a couple of questions for you too, Chris, whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, it's Daniel, Jordan, anything that I forgot? Because I tend to forget.
I do not think so, no.
All right, okay, thanks. All right, so Terry, thank you. You have a couple questions, huh? Daniel's here, he can answer them.
So the first one is, can any of the reports be automated to run, say on a monthly basis, and sent to a predetermined list of email addresses?
Yes, yes on both. We do that with many of our customers. The best example I have is the turnout time report. Those are, run at a specific time, typically Monday at 6 a.m. And it gets emailed to the entire operational leadership team of the department. And then that serves as the working tool for them at their 8 o'clock leadership meeting to go like, so what's going on with B shift again? What's the problem there? And, serves as the management tool for dealing with that. So yes, any or all of those can be auto-populated and auto-distributed.
Excellent. Okay, so the other question was, if we were to change our desired targets for turnout times, for example, how difficult is it to have the report changed to reflect the change?
It's very simple. A couple of the charts, obviously, that we had there, you have full power to change the conditional formatting on that. In working with your the product team who's here, you also have the ability, you A, will establish a relationship with them, and B, they are readily available to make sure that all the back end stuff is changed, the stored procedures and whatnot, for consistency across all the reports. So yeah, we handle that, we deal with that all the time. And it brings up an interesting point that I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about, in that one of the things that you need to be aware of as you move forward is that this product does require a little bit of sweat equity, right, to set it up, because you can imagine everybody's got a different view of how they define their ERF, how they define their, trucks versus platforms versus squads versus whatever the case may be. So you will get to know our product team very closely. We do spend a lot of time with you up front to make sure that what we are reporting are the things that you want to definitely report, and that they should be the elements that we are including in your calculations are the elements that accurately reflect your actual operational performance and are relevant to you, your community, and CFAI. So it does take a little bit of effort up front to go through those numbers, do data validation, make sure we're reporting. But the advantage to that is longer term, we protect your credibility because the numbers don't change. Everybody knows, what it is that is included within the data set, and people can argue or disagree of what is included, but everyone will know exactly what it is that's included in that particular data set. And as that changes, we have the ability to change that as well. So if there's a change in your policy or there's a change in the standards in your community, we'll be happy, and we do on an ongoing basis update that. It brings out, I think, one of the important features of FirstWatch, and that is we are not a build and dump company, right? We don't put stuff in a box and drop it in your lap and say, hey, here it is, a one size fits all. Because especially with data, it does not. And some people will tell you, we can do this really cheaply and really quickly. We've been doing this for 24 years now, and I can tell you, there's a inverse relationship between data reliability or data accuracy and latency, right? So things that are turned around quick are become dirty data. There's a lot of dirty data in dispatch centers and in reports that firefighters fill out, and having a thing in place, a system in place that allows you to identify where those outliers are, that will identify what may not be good data, will save you a ton of embarrassment and a lot of time as you move forward. So it's worth the sweat equity that you put in up front, because at the end of the day, it's your legacy, right? And it's your credibility with your board or your mayor or city manager, whatever the case may be.
Good. That's the only two that are on there.
All right. Anybody want to add anything else? Any other questions that are coming in?
Yep, not seeing any more at this point.
Okay.
Yep, I think you're good.
All right. So Terry, you want to just kind of wrap it up? I mean, there's our contact information. If you have any questions, reach out to Terry or myself, and we're happy to provide any information or clarification you want. Obviously, if you want a deeper dive demo with more details, we're happy to do that for you, and happy to see how we might be able to help you and your organization as we move forward.
Excellent. Yeah, and if you email me on any of your questions, I can make sure I distribute them across the company as they need to be answered by certain people. As well as if you're looking for more information, I'll make sure that your message gets over to the right regional manager for your territory or your area that you're from. So that way it's more specific to you. With that, I'd also like to just add again, just to reiterate what Chris said at the very beginning, as well as Cindy, is the recording will be coming out by email a little bit later today or tomorrow. So we will have that. The other thing I wanted to mention is up under your menu, there's a section there called handouts that we've got 3 different PDFs in there as well. That it gives you a little bit more of FAQs about the Fire Operations and Accreditation Module, as well as a little bit more of information about the module itself, not just FAQs, but what all is included in there with the reports and that sort of thing. So those are also up there for your accessibility to get to. And I think that's it for now.
All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. And Terry, Chris, Dan, everybody, Jenny, thank you so much for putting this together. And if you don't have time to download the handouts now, just reach out and we will get them to you, and as well as the audio or the recording of this. So take care, and I hope to hear from you all soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.